In my previous videos, I've highlighted some fun, interesting, and positive stuff about India and its immense diversity. But I've also mentioned a few times that all is not sunshine and rainbows. No, the country is huge and its issues are likewise humongous. There are multiple major problems that are really pulling the country back, and something needs to be done to address each one of them, and fast, if the nation wants to survive and succeed. So what exactly are these problems that I talk about? Let's dig in. Namaste my dear friends, I'm Dhruv and welcome to the Indoverse, your one-stop resource for everything India. This is the first video in the series I'd like to call Vichardhara, where I will share facts and my opinions on current social issues and news and try to pave a path to discussion and debate. Healthy discussion is possible, and we actually need to do it more often in today's world. Today, I will give you a quick overview of the problems I personally feel plague India, and in the future we'll talk about each of them in their own videos, as one video is just not enough to do justice to each topic. Number 1 on my list is overpopulation, as this is what I believe is the root cause of all problems and increases both their magnitude and the difficulty that we face to solve them. To give you a perspective, Russia, the largest country in the world at 17.1 million square kilometers, has only 1.9% of the world's population, at around 145 million people. India, on the other hand, is the 7th largest country with an area of 3.28 million square kilometers, but it has 17.7% of the world's population at around 1.35 billion people, behind only China, which is around 3 times larger than India. We are way too overpopulated. I mean, sure, we get a young population and cheap labor, but that also generates even more unemployment and more mouths to feed, and also an unsustainable pressure on governmental and natural resources. When some politicians go out and try to sell to the youth and to the world that India is the powerhouse of the future due to our young resources, I feel that is whitewashing the problem, and no one is logically explaining the real issue to the majority of the populace, and the real youth and their energy is now going to waste, partly due to the problems which are next on my list. Number 2 on my list is religion. It is all well and good to say that we are the most diverse country in the world with the majority of religions living in relative peace, but has it really been a boon? The British used a policy of divide and rule during the colonial times and widened the gap between the already very different religions of Hinduism and Islam, and used the somewhat strained relations between them since centuries to their own advantage, ultimately leading to the creation of Pakistan during the partition in 1947. And even today, selfish individuals, politicians, and organizations continue to make a fool out of the people in the name of religion. It is also much easier to radicalize an uneducated and highly religious populace compared to an educated and non-religious one, as can be seen from examples from many Western nations. Almost all truly advanced and holistic countries have high rates of atheism and clear separation of state and church, while most countries with high number of religious people are lagging behind in most aspects. We are struggling to maintain peace within the country, a situation that has been worsened by the increased radicalization of Muslims and Hindus alike. A quick search about the list of riots in India will give you all the figures and numbers that you need about this serious problem. Minorities face persecution and horrific crimes are committed against them in the name of faith, and the infamous caste system, a gift from Hinduism, has been pulling back the country since a long time now, ripping the society on the lines of caste and pushing up or pulling down people from certain sections of the society on the basis of birth, not of need or finances. Apart from the destruction of the fabric of the society, this has also led to a mindless loss of public and private property worth billions of rupees. Each and every subsequent government since the first years of independence have used religion and caste as a vote bank. And let's face the truth, a large majority of the Indian population as a whole is pretty divided, opinionated, and racist when it comes to caste. Moving on. Number 3 on my list is education, or lack thereof. And as I mentioned in the previous point, it is a very dangerous cocktail of a large number of people overly driven by faith and suffering from lack of education. And mind you, literacy is not equal to education. There can be people who can read and write, but their minds are not really open to understanding things and changing. We are not ready or capable to debate, to challenge, to understand, to learn new things, to accept our mistakes. And this can be attributed to a failing education system. And I know that this is not a problem limited to India only. It is a widespread issue in the entire world, but it is slightly more prevalent in India. First, let's talk about literacy. Literacy rate, as defined in the Indian census of 1991, is the total percentage of the population of an area at a particular time aged 7 years or above who can read and write with understanding. We can all agree that this is a very vague definition of literacy, which puts the rate at 74% for India in 2011 as per the national census. Although it is a dramatic improvement from the 12% rate that existed in 1947 when the British left India, I believe that this number hides the real challenges and disparities that exist on the ground level. And this brings me to our education system. The education system of India is blamed now and then for being too theoretical and not practical and skill-based. Students study to score high on exams and not to gain knowledge. This so-called modern education system was introduced by our colonial masters to create more servants who could serve and do what they are told to but not lead. And unfortunately, we have the same education system till date. Within the educational system, issues in enrollment like gender disparity, which was 80.9% for men and 64.6% for women in 2011, caste disparity, poverty, low enrollment, and high dropout rates continue to hinder the progress of genuine education. Though a number of primary schools have been set up in India, the problem still persists. And educating children only will not solve this problem, as many adults are still untouched by the education system and they tend to hold back the youth from pursuing modern ideas. I think this is a generational problem which will take decades to solve. Now that we have overpopulation, religion, and lack of education out of the way, I can safely point out that most of the problems that persist in India have their roots in either one or all of these problems. But we cannot have a list of problems in India without mentioning this final problem on my list, which is corruption. For me, this is more of an effect of all the problems that I mentioned before than the cause. Combine an ever-increasing population and an education system which systematically dulls the mind of the people with rising religious bias in the mix, and you get a whole lot of people looking for shortcuts to success. As there are too many people who believe they have been dealt a bad hand in life due to the immense pressure that the system is under, or are fed up of this rat race that we call life in India, they either want to bypass the system and make it big in the country, or leave it altogether to pursue opportunities outside. In 2017, according to Transparency International, India was ranked 81st out of 180 countries in terms of least corruption, while New Zealand is the least corrupt of all in the first place. This also marked a drop from the 79th position in 2016. There is hardly any public office that is not touched by this disease, and sometimes even in the private sector. And there is no counting as to how much the economy has suffered due to corruption. But even though we are concerned about this issue, when the time comes to act, we, the Indians, are found to be lacking. We are more than willing to ourselves pay a bribe to get things done, and then we blame the system. And also, even when someone tries to do something about this problem, either you cannot get your work done at all, or it happens on a very slow pace, or if you want to bring justice to the corrupt and the powerful, you face dire consequences. So there you go, guys. This was a compilation of the top 4 problems that I personally feel are plaguing India, although this list is not at all comprehensive. I can of course add more issues such as lack of hygiene and healthcare, high poverty, high pollution, lack of women's safety, high crime, lack of infrastructure, etc. and many more problems in an imperfect nation. But at the end, I can assure you that we can track and point all of these problems towards the ones that I mentioned in this video. From the next video onwards in this series, we will tackle one problem at a time, and I will actually try to provide more statistics and some potential solutions as well. And as it's always good to compare and learn from the best, I will try to provide figures and real-life examples from other countries to help gain perspective. Till then, make sure that you show my new channel all your love and support by liking and sharing this video, clicking the subscribe button, and hitting the bell notification icon so that you don't miss any of my content as it rolls out. I thank you for being here and see you all next time. Namaste.